In 1991, a group of college students were having a party in the middle of the forest on the outskirts of the Kettle Town in Missouri during the carnival. Jessica was playing with a toy box she found nearby at this time. He saw his friend Tyler looking at him from afar, and he waved his hand at each other, and then walked to the cornfield with this young man. However, due to the poor visibility around, the college student eventually got lost, and he began to call Jessica loudly during the search. Tyler saw some huge footprints on the ground, which made him even more confused. But even so, he continued to cross the garden to find Jessica. Suddenly, Jessica appeared in front of him, but he looked seriously injured, which shocked Tyler. In the last few seconds of his life, he told his friend to get out of this place as soon as possible. Tyler was desperate for everything he had just seen. He began to look around. At this time, he noticed that someone was passing by the cornfield. He was so scared that he ran with his legs. I don't know how long he ran. He accidentally hit a straw man in the field. He fell to the ground with an unstable center of gravity, and he didn't have time to get up and run away. A demon clown appeared in front of him. The clown struck him with a huge 3x and pierced his body. Back in time, Dr. Glenn and his daughter Vera moved from their hometown to Kettle Town. After passing through the city, the couple walked along the country road. A few minutes later, they arrived at the Star's house. In the house, they found that there was no cell phone signal in this place. In the conversation, Vera noticed a large group of flies that seemed to be around the fireplace. Out of curiosity, the girl walked into the fireplace and pressed the edge of the fireplace with an iron brick. Suddenly, a corpse of an animal fell out of the chimney. This shocked the father and daughter. After removing the animal's corpse, Vera tried to calm down. He looked out the window from the second floor and noticed an abandoned factory in the distance. The structure looked very strange. On the morning of the second day, the girl welcomed her to school. On the first day, before she left home, her neighbor Street came to visit. The young man explained that he noticed that the family had arrived here yesterday. In order not to let the new neighbor walk around alone, he proposed that the two of them go to school together. Although he was a little reluctant, but Vera still agreed to the proposal, so the two students went to school together. When they arrived at school, St reminded the girl to be careful there and not to trust others easily. The girl said she would do her best to ensure her safety. Vera was late for her first day of school, which naturally led to the teacher's blame. The teacher ordered him to sit in his place immediately before the class began. At this time, a student joked with the teacher. The teacher was angry and let the student of dismissal stand up and admit his mistake. But no young man was willing to reveal the real perpetrators, so the teacher decided to punish them and began to distribute their assault exam papers in order to ease the situation. The truth told him that it was unfair to the new students. But the teacher said he didn't care who told this new student to be late for his first day of class. Hearing this, Vera explained that he got the wrong classroom position, so he was only a few minutes late. However, this would only make the teacher even more angry. He told Vera that he would be exiled after school. This punishment made Carl very angry. Carl tried to defend him as a new classmate, and the result was that he and Vera were exiled. At that moment, the students noticed that these papers were just another prank. The above is a personal information picture of the teacher on the social network application. The students rushed to the teacher, who reacted with anger and tried to grab the test paper from them. But it was all in vain because several students had already recorded the whole situation with their mobile phones. Later, Vera met some classmates in the class. The truth is that the teacher seemed to hate this class all the time, so they played pranks in the conversation. You also asked about the anniversary of this town, which is the founding day. Carl revealed that this holiday was just a tradition invented by his family a few hundred years ago. Carl's great-grandfather was responsible for the creation of the corn syrup industry in the area, so he had 8 companies. Later, the town decided to set up a date to commemorate its great corn garden. Soon after, Tuck explained that during the celebration there will be a grand party where everyone will gather around a flower car with a clown as the theme. The clown is the mascot of the company, and excited Logan revealed that they have a clown-themed personal information on the social network. There they reenact the movie and turn this image into a great horror character so that his colleagues can understand how they usually record. Then Tuck showed Vera a video they released. In the video, this young man played a chase scene with this terrible character. A few hours later, the girl met her father at a cafe. She was excited to learn that her father had tried to install a network device in her new home. At this time, Dr. Glenn was visited by the security officer Dang-en. Dang-en thanked him for joining the town's residents because they had been looking for a good doctor for months. In the conversation, Vera saw her new friends approaching the restaurant window. At this time, The security officer noticed the young people outside. I started staring at them, and soon these people left the shop, and the security officer explained that recently in this town in the area I've had a few problems with teenagers, so they should stay away from these teenagers. Soon after, Dr. Glenn invited the security officer to sit down and have lunch with them. But Vera didn't like the idea at all, so he decided to leave and leave his father alone to talk to the security officer. And after leaving the restaurant, the young woman met with other friends. They were discussing how to buy wine from the store without being found. Tucker and Matt confidently said they had a good plan to get the wine, so these young people walked into the store together. When he saw Odi there, his comedy performance was interrupted by the customers. Odi noticed that Vera didn't look like a local and asked him where he was from. When they were talking, they heard a noise from the other end of the store, which caught the shop owner's attention. Tucker and Matt just picked up a pen and started a fight at this opportunity. Other people took the wine from the store and put the money on the counter and left quickly. Not long after, the partner was caught and escaped from the scene. At dusk, the young people were gathering together to have a party, and they had no idea that they were being watched by a mysterious figure in the conversation. Matt said he was going to the bathroom. After Matt left the fire, Vera asked what had happened to the abandoned factory he had found. Although a little hesitant, these young people still decided to tell him what happened not long ago. In order to shoot a horror short, they decided to sneak in there. But during the break-in, there was a fire in the factory. Although the police concluded that the building was short-circuited, these young people never believed it. After learning of this incident, Vera was even more confused. He guessed that someone might have set up an ambush, and then blamed the fire on them. At this point, Matt was suddenly attacked by a mysterious figure. He screamed desperately, hearing the screams of his friends. The young men were frightened and rushed in the direction of Matt. All he could see was the appearance of his whole body, and Matt fell to the ground before he took a few steps. Then the group of people met a knife-wearing clown, and Vera hurriedly ran behind Carl. But a few seconds later, the young men suddenly laughed and told Vera it was just a joke, that they were trying to take a picture of the girl, and Vera just reacted that the clown was dressed up as a Turk and Matt's injury was fake. Later, Carl drove Vera home. Before getting out of the car, Vera wanted to kiss Carl, but this idea was interrupted by Glenn. Glenn was very angry with his daughter's late return and learned that they had been drinking at home. He ordered Carl to leave here immediately and said he would never let his daughter near him again. After the young man left, Vera went back to his room in anger and watched the horror short with his new friends. At this point, he noticed that another clown was hiding in the ruins and watching them. He quickly contacted the Turk and found out that the Turk hadn't had time to reply to his friend. He noticed that the clown was standing in front of his house, and the Turk realized that it was not a joke. He decided to go out with a toy gun and fight this impudent get. In the bedroom, the Turk dug out a music box from the closet and just opened it. A clown doll suddenly popped out and scared him. He thought it was a prank again and didn't take it seriously. But at this point, the clown suddenly appeared and attacked his neck, and the Turk fell to the ground. The clown covered his body with plastic and tried to cover up the crime. On the morning of the second day, the town began to hold the grand inauguration of the founder. The event was held by Carl's father, Arthur. Halfway through the parade, Vera met with his friends to discuss the whereabouts of the Turk, and then he recorded the ceremony with his cell phone and saw a naked clown riding a single-wheeler. A police officer tried to stop the clown's strange performance by throwing a fake bomb in his hand, but he accidentally dropped a fake bomb on a car full of corn, and it caused a fire, and the clown's giant doll was hit by the fire. It just happened to be in front of Arthur, and he was angry, and he wanted to find the man who made the mess. On the other side, Carl and Vera were going to meet with their friends, but they were stopped by the security guard, and he decided to blame everything that had just happened to these young people. So they were taken to the town police station and locked up in a cell for a few hours. After being released by the police, Vera met her father, and Glenn was disappointed in her daughter's behavior. Vera tried to make her father understand the strange behavior of the security guard, but Glenn did not believe it. After all this, Vera was heartbroken and apologized to her father. Glenn said that in all the difficulties they had, he had been trying to meet the needs of his daughter at Mart's house. He was doing weight training, but he was interrupted by a music box that suddenly appeared around him. But he didn't care. I just threw this thing into the trash can. However, the toy was triggered in the same way. A few seconds later, the young man was frightened by the devil clown. The clown put the push-up barbell on top of his body. In order to quickly deal with him, the clown put the sentence in the middle of the barbell, and then pressed the barbell down towards Mart. Mart's head was then pulled down from his body. At home, Vera received a message from Carl. Carl said he was waiting for him outside to go to his party. At this point, Vera's father was asleep and Vera sneaked out and left with his friends. Carl gave him a music box as a gift thanks to his family. He was able to get in touch with all the valuable items of the Bop and Company. Vera was very excited and began to turn around, but he hadn't finished the song. The two met Street in the middle of the street and saw him walking home after picking up some stuff. After saying goodbye to St, the young couple arrived at the party site, and Carl took his friends to the barn and everyone had a great time there. A few minutes later, Vera asked his friends to go to one of the small rooms so that they could stay alone. But Carl thought it was inappropriate. He said he wanted to go back to the party, and Vera realized that he was too impulsive to apologize to his friends. Carl tried to comfort him. Everything that happened in the past few days is confusing, but the girls still felt embarrassed and decided to leave there to hook the fire and drink something to calm down. When Logan and Jenny saw Vera alone, Logan walked towards Jenny and began to laugh at his classmate, and said that this girl was just another student who would be rejected by Carl. Vera was very angry and pushed Jenny back. In the fight, the young people heard a scream from the cornfield. Everyone saw the desperate Jingjie shaking out, and soon after he fell to the ground with a sword on his back, and Vera didn't have time to scream. Logan covered his mouth and said it might be another prank by Tucker and Matt, so the two girls were laughing at Jingjie as they walked up to him. And at that moment a clown's head fell on the ground next to them. I was so scared that I took off my mask from this guy's head, and when I saw Matt's face, it's hard to believe that this young man actually made a plaster model. And then you threw this head into Logan's hands, and Logan was very angry because this thing got his clothes dirty. But at that moment, Mara said he couldn't feel the pulse of Jingjie, so Jingjie was really dead. Hearing this, the two girls panicked and didn't have time to run away and were scared by the clown. The clown shot through the head of the DJ and easily got rid of him, and now the whole place was in a great panic. Jenny fell while trying to escape the clown. Mara quickly used a trash can lid to protect his friends from shooting, and they noticed that the door to the barn was locked, so they decided to run to the back. And at that moment the three were scared by St and only saw St shooting the clown with a shotgun and immediately knocked the clown down. Mara said desperately that they needed to leave immediately, but the young man said that all the cars were destroyed, and Jenny revealed that there was no cell phone signal in this area, so they couldn't figure out who the criminal was. St asked his friends to take off the clown's mask, but they didn't have time to do so, and they were scared by a bunch of clowns. These clowns are equipped with all kinds of weapons. St designed one of the clowns without hesitation and shot one of his hands. In this episode he fell to the ground and everyone else started laughing at him at the same time. Mara was knocked down by one of the clowns. Before his friend was resolved, Carl appeared at the scene and hit the clown with an iron stick to knock the enemy down. Now they're reunited, and these young people run to the house and lock themselves in there so they can find a way out. Soon after, St used 2 of his only 3 bullets to solve a clown who had destroyed part of the wooden wall in the chaos. Carl cut open one of the things in the house. Thanks to this, Mara noticed that there was a sewer in this place, so the young man opened the passage and was ready to run away. St suggested that they use the fuel of a few wheels to distract the clowns on the other side. Carl found that his daughter had once again left home without permission and set out to find him. During the search, he passed by his own clinic, and the clinic seemed to have been broken into. He was worried, and he went into the clinic to see what was going on, but at that moment he was scared by a clown, and the clown ordered him to deal with the wound for his partner, otherwise it would have been solved and Mara would have gone back to the hut. And the young man had completed the preparation of the fuel trap, and after everyone had entered the tunnel, when St lit the fire, the clowns were hit by the huge explosion caused by the fuel of a few wheels. The survivors reached the other side of the tunnel, and Carl noticed that St had not met them and said that they had to go back to save him. However, they could not compete with these clowns at all. In order not to be killed, the young man decided to run through the cornfield to escape to the town. A few minutes later, the group of people ran to the main road and met the security officer. But because the security officer had a feud with these young people in the past, he didn't believe them at all and decided to disarm Carl's weapons and arrest him. The girls screamed in despair and asked the security officer to take them to the car, but the officer didn't want to do that. The car left, and the 3 of them continued to run through the cornfield. Suddenly, the girls met a group of armed clowns who had no choice but to escape. They tried to hide in the cornfield but were soon discovered and had to keep running. At this time, Logan was caught by a crazy clown. The clown stabbed his body with a chain and the girl died on the spot. Mara and Jenny then ran to a nearby house and hid in the house. The two found a lifeless clown corpse in the living room. When they were checking the corpse, they heard a phone ringing on the 2nd floor. The girls ran up to pick up the phone, but the phone was hung up at this time. They saw a few photos of their friends and a record of the evil clown. Soon after, they found a music box around them. They were surprised by the sudden movement of the toy. Mara realized that the house was a trap. They didn't have time to leave, and they were shocked by the clown who had just pretended to be a corpse lying on the ground. Jenny didn't have time to react and was stabbed 3 times by the monster. Then the monster took him to a lamp and electrocuted him on the spot. Mara panicked and grabbed a flower pot and smashed it at the clown to kill him. He was going to pull out the 3-in-1 from his friend's body. Jenny knew what was going to happen and begged Mara not to do that because it would make her more painful, but Mara ignored his plea and pulled out the 3-in-1 from his friend's body. Then he hit the clown's abdomen, and the clown fell to Jenny's side. The two died at the same time, and Mara was devastated by what he had just done and shed a tear. He grabbed the key and was about to leave this place. In the distance, Glenn closed the heart detector in the clown's body in order to pretend that he really needed help. He asked the man to take out the shovel, and the clown put the knife on the shelf. The doctor cut the enemy's neck with a knife while he was not ready. The wound killed the enemy in a few seconds after being released. Glenn took a walkie-talkie from a clown and used it to find his daughter's location in order to escape from this place. Mara ran to a car, but since he couldn't drive, he couldn't leave in time. In the end, he was caught by the clown and brought to the factory that was destroyed. At this time, the clowns' identities were revealed one by one. These clowns were none other than the security officer Deng En, Audi, Trudy, and his class teacher. The girl ordered them to let go of themselves. As a response, the security officer remembered him. Soon after, Arthur appeared and explained that the residents of Cornfield Town would join together to purify the people of all generations in order to ensure that the town will always remain pure. After the explanation, the leader said that it was time to solve a person. He pulled the curtain and everyone saw that Carl was caught. Originally, Vera would be the first to be solved, but Glenn suddenly drove in and broke the facility, leaving everyone in a hurry. The head of Audi was smashed to pieces and Trudy's body was hit by a metal rod. 2 colleagues died on the spot and the teacher rushed to Glenn, but was hit by a car door on the ground. Glenn quickly ran to save Carl at this time. In order to stop the security officer from firing at his father, Vera picked up the electric stick and hit the security officer, but Glenn was still shot. He let his daughter run away and tried to save Carl. Vera immediately hid in a storage room and drew the attention of the security officer with a human model. Take the opportunity to use the electric stick to hit the other party and solve it on the spot. At the same time, Arthur used an iron stick to knock out Glenn and drive away Carl. He wanted to use the car to drag Carl through the rope around his neck to solve it, and at that moment Arthur appeared and shot to break the rope to save Carl. Then Vera reunited with her father and the survivors left the scene together after confirming their safety. Glenn also taught his daughter to drive so that he could escape with everyone, but they haven't set off yet, and the previous teacher has started the chain to catch up with the survivors, and they're tired of running away. Fortunately, he drove straight to the teacher and smashed his body to pieces. A few months later, Vera was ready to go to New University to say goodbye to her father and friends. After saying goodbye, he drove off and found the music box in the car on the way and threw it out of the car. At this point, the little clown jumped out of the box as if to imply that there are still evil clowns in the whole town of Caterpillar. Well, that's it for today's video. If you're interested in this movie, why don't you go and see the original film? If you think my explanation is good, please move your little hand. Your support is the biggest motivation for me to continue to create. I'll see you next time.